Hello everybody! In this first tutorial in our iOS Basics series, we're going to create a Hello World app. The first thing we want to do is go ahead and open up Xcode. If you haven't downloaded Xcode yet, go ahead and go to the App Store and you'll find Xcode there and go ahead and download it. But since we already have it, let's go ahead and open it up. The first thing we want to do is click on Create a New Xcode Project. Let's go to iOS and Single View App. Hit Next. Let's just call this Hello World App. Don't worry about the rest of this information for now. We'll get more into that in future tutorials. Go ahead and hit Next. Go ahead and save it or create it wherever you would like. Hit Create. And the first thing we want to do is just take a quick look at our storyboard, because we're going to put this in side-by-side mode. And one way you can do that is by clicking on this icon. You can see it's two circles that overlap. It's called the Assistant Editor. And you can see when we click on that, we get our storyboard here and our code here. If you want to get rid of this drop-down menu, you can go ahead and click on this icon here, Hide Document Outline. And now we have our side-by-side view. Now to get back to the single view, you can click on this icon, and that takes us back to the single view. If you just want to see your code only, then you can click on this viewcontroller.swift. Okay? Now let's go back to our storyboard and show you another way that you can quickly get the side-by-side view. Let's hide this. So here we have our storyboard. And this storyboard is where we will drag our objects, such as our buttons and our labels and all that good stuff that you see over here. There's a whole bunch of options that you have to create your apps. But another quick way to put this in the side-by-side view is to go ahead and hold your Option key and click on this viewcontroller.swift file. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. We don't need this did receive memory warning, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. Let's go ahead and get rid of the comments for our view did load. And we probably won't need this function, but let's go ahead and keep it for now. Next, let's go ahead to our object options here. So make sure that this icon here is highlighted. And let's go ahead and search for a button. So we're going to use this button right here. Let's go ahead and click it and drag it onto our storyboard. Now you'll notice some blue lines here. That helps you place your objects appropriately onto your storyboard. So we can see here we have the vertical and horizontal blue lines, and that puts it in the middle of the storyboard. Now depending on the device that you use when you run this, you most likely will have to make some adjustments to your layout to get the buttons to show up in the correct places for all the devices. But we'll get more into the layout options in future tutorials. So let's go ahead and drag this up just a little bit, but let's keep it somewhat in the middle. And the next thing we want to do is search for a label. So let's type out label. Let's go ahead and drag this over. Let's make this a little bit bigger. And let's go ahead and center it using the alignment here. Okay, so we have what we need for this Hello World app. The next thing we want to do is this button, when we press it, is going to perform an action. So let's go ahead and click it. And you want to hold down your Control key and then drag over and connect it to your view controller. Now, as we mentioned, this is going to perform an action, so the connection drop-down here is set to outlet, and we want that to say action. Let's go ahead and give this a name, and we'll name this, say, hello. Let's make the type UI button. We'll keep this event touch up inside, and we can leave the arguments as default sender. Now let's go ahead and click connect. Okay, so now we have our function, which is going to do something when this button is clicked. The next thing we need to do is hook up our label. So let's go ahead again and hold down Control, drag over. We'll just call this label. and this is going to be an outlet. And we can keep the rest of the options as their default. Let's go ahead and click Connect. So what we want to do is when we click this button, we want the Hello World to show up here on the label. So let's go back to our Say Hello function here. We're going to use our label. Let's type out label.text. And what do we want the text to say? When we click the button, we want it to say Hello World. So we will assign a string. Okay, so let's go up here and let's make this iPhone 7. Let's go ahead and run this. And this may take a little bit of time. And this is going to launch our simulator for the iPhone 7. Now, when we press this button, remember we mentioned that on our storyboard we hooked this button up to this function. So when we press the button, that should activate our function, and then we tell the function what we want to do inside the curly brackets, which is assign the text string Hello World to our label, which we created here and hooked up to our file. So let's test this out and hit the button, and you can see we get Hello World. We will be doing many more tutorials in the near future. Join us for those, and we'll see you next time.